Here we go. Hi, everybody. I am Carolyn Elliott, and Laila is not with me tonight, actually, but Laila would heartily approve of the person who I am talking to. I'm here with Pamela Lyness, who is a profound channeler and worker of all etheric workings in beautiful ways. I'm not sure how much else to say about your professional life, but I wanted everybody to be able to hear Pamela, and she can tell us whatever she wants to tell us about her professional life. But I wanted you all to hear my conversation with her tonight because so she's a dear, dear friend of mine who's helped me through so many immensely hard things. And we were talking tonight about the things going on in the world. So tonight, as we are recording this, there's a solar eclipse happening in Sagittarius early here in December 2021. And it's been pretty intense for me. And I was just sharing with Pamela about all of the loss and all of the, reorientation and feeling so much like I have been like a performing marionette on like some sort of Instagram, I don't know, dystopian stage where I'm like being lashed by my overlords and told to, dance, monkey dance to keep keep everything coming in, and how I am ready to really feeling like I can't sustain that anymore and I need to like slow down and like try something else. Anyways, Pamela was sharing her wisdom with me, and maybe you could start by telling me and the listeners about the sort of the two worlds and what's happening right now.
Well, hi, everyone.
Hi. Yeah, let her say hi. I'll let her say hi. She can say hi. I'm just so excited to be we're recording. That's all.
I don't know if I should say a little bit about myself, but I also, I've been working with plant medicines in the Amazon and for many years. And so I'm currently in the US and feeling as well the shifts coming through this region, which I've been called to be here for unknown period of time, as my life has been frequently changing places, and because there's also a greater reason and understanding when we see of the collective of what's happening in the world, in the what I'd say is like a disintegration of being able to be in two worlds, meaning the two worlds that are, we could say it's splitting apart at the moment, but are currently getting very polarized, as everybody can tell with what is happening in the, whether it be media or people's opinions and ways, but within ourselves, those two worlds are also being mirrored inside as they pull apart. And so aspects of ourselves that have been in one or the other world are being faced with some disintegration process of perhaps feeling like you've been or you want to be in one of those worlds still because of the benefits of it. And there's perhaps fear or just this greater unknown about jumping into this other amazing world that's going to be starting within this other frequency and vibration that we've never been in before.
I thought you described the differences between the two frequencies so gorgeously to me earlier, Pamela. I wonder if you would describe the, name those frequencies for the listeners.
Sure. Well, the world that we've been a part of that had elements of the, domination, authoritarian control, has been increasingly becoming more so, and as reflected as in our training from our education system and how we've been educated to, I guess, now that I'm not going to beat around the bush, perhaps be enslaved.
Yeah, we've been educated to be enslaved. That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been educated to how to be enslaved, and how a lot of the mind programs and thoughts that we've been given have been showing us how to directly do this in a way that is profitable for some, and not for others. And so now that the worlds are splitting, there's a larger, there's another choice happening where one doesn't have to do that anymore. But in that choice, this is like saying we have to have total faith and trust in our soul and the spirit that's coming through of all of creation and the interconnectedness of everything to support us. And as I was saying earlier, that I'd like to revisit with you, was that enslavement is, and the training to be enslaved is usually it's not believing that there is a greater creator, and that we aren't interconnected. Therefore, that assumes that our minds then have to figure everything out.
Oh God!
And we
please,
have to figure how to do everything, and so we can't miss a beat, and we have to multitask our asses off to be able to do that, because we don't see the greater picture. But we've been educated to say you should be able to, otherwise you're not good enough. So
wait, I just want to say this back, both to make sure that I fully absorb it and that everybody else does, because I feel like this is like huge truth that we all need to really grok. So Pamela, you're saying that we've all been educated to be slaves in this authoritarian system, that tells us that we have to we have to use our minds to figure everything out and know what's going on and know everything and know how everything's going to happen and how we're going to support ourselves, and so we've been trained that way. And that training is part of what keeps us in the illusion, or is a version of reality in which we think that we're not all connected, and we're not all united by a creator who's providing perfectly for us in various ways. And instead we have to do it all ourselves. We're all on our own. All we've got is our little brain, and we have to really pump it and use it as hard as we can and as best as we can, because it's all on that little brain, and there's no God and there's no real interconnection. It's just us and the grind and our brains. But the alternative frequency is about really opening up into non-enslavement, into like a deep freedom and a deep trusting that because we all are super interconnected and the creator is for real, that our brains don't have to do it all. Like, we don't have to have everything figured out. We can be in a lot more not knowing. And like what I'm hearing from you is that it's really safe to be in that not knowing.
Yeah. And I think that's the like that cornerstone of safety, because like in the two worlds as they split, the feeling of safety that was created by control, authority, and it's not necessarily like, I don't want to like make it so bad, but as time speeds up, the amount of attention we have to bring to it because of finance of this, it's every day. It's just too much on the system. So other people are going to getting really sick, and aren't able to take care of themselves on a physical level or a spiritual level. And so in that authoritarian system, one must give up something to be safe. Where if you go into the other world, safety means you don't give up who you truly are. And you receive, but the receiving, and, sorry, don't say but the receiving of who you truly are means this presence that is not independent. It's interdependent on the interconnectedness with all. So if we energetically, there's parts of ourselves, especially in our heart, and this is also what's happening right now with the electromagnetic frequencies of our heart. When we allow that to open up to the interconnectedness of life, we connect to everybody, not everybody, but all of life, which is, if you want to say God or all of creation. And that system that's opening up to all of creation as creators is the foundation for how to. And so this is an organic system. Just like when you look at nature, the how to, the birds don't go, who's going to produce the food? who's going to, and the bees are like, who's going to collect? It's like, as we get to the foundation of who we truly are, then every day we just express ourselves in our natural, authentic being, and we receive everything we need.
So I love that. And sometimes I wonder, Pamela, why? Okay, so oftentimes I have envied the birds and the bees and how in tune they are with beingness. Like, why do you think it is, or feel or know it is, that we humans have gone through this, seems like a pretty long phase, thousands of years maybe, of trying to do something other than just be our authentic selves, relying, being overly dependent on the mind, or I don't know.
It's an experience.
Yeah. So it's like consciousness giving itself the experience of being pretty miserable. Or I don't know.
Well, I feel like that for every polarization and duality of this dimension, there is going to be a polarization in the dimension that we're in. We're in the third dimension, which everything becomes polarized. And so if we raise the frequency of the dimension that we are currently, if we choose to raise, and some of us will choose and just allow that to happen within, because it might be a conscious choice, but some of us might make unconscious choices that, doesn't allow that frequency to raise because of the safeguards and so on. And so they choose to, stay in one world because of that, whatever attachments they might have to that. And that's fine. That's another learning experience, right? But as the frequency and dimensional shift happens, then that brings us to a greater awareness of how we can arise out of polarity. So we're no longer learning from the polarity of you're good, I'm bad, he's, do you know what I mean? We're not learning from that way, but that is going to be in a certain world. The authoritarian kind of dominant hierarchical way of lifestyle is very dual.
So I want to, that is so, so I also want to bring folks' attention to this because, so fun fact, me and Pamela were both Rosicrucian colognes. And I mention that because Rosicrucians are a Hermetic order, and Laila and I talk about tantric Hermeticism here a lot. And a huge thing in Hermeticism is the reconciliation of opposites. So basically exactly like what you were saying, Pamela, seeing okay, right, good and bad. They're not so different as they seem. They're all on a revolving sort of toroid donut shaped tree, right? It's always happening, and that trying to resist or cling to one or push the other away, just keeps you doing that. That's all it does.
Exactly.
And I love what you're saying, because like what I hear you saying is that there's a consciousness shift happening right now, where there's this frequency coming in, or this invitation to this frequency that is the frequency that knows how to resolve and integrate those polarities, and that knows itself as the larger torus that includes both the yin and the yang, the good and the evil, the pleasure and the pain, the life and the death, and therefore doesn't cling to or antagonize either pole, but just, sort of like you were saying, has this effect of like a unity and a harmony, like allows for a harmonization. When you let, like what I'm hearing is like when we really drop into that frequency of wholeness and interconnection, and allow that to be, the truth that it is, then well, that's a huge dimensional change for how humanity has been living, a lot of it, because a lot of us have been living in a very
Well, and I just want to say though too, is like there's, just because you brought up antagonist, and then I thought of protagonist, right? And then wholeness, and then I was like, oh, that's a good connection. Where there's beliefs, around that are disintegrating within us, and our identification mechanisms that we've been taught and educated by, that, protagonist looks like this, and he's the good guy, and what is a protagonist? It's like they do, and they have the sense, and so we actually put onto this antagonist, protagonist, certain ideas that we've in their subconscious, like that's wholeness. And so that the antagonists aren't even offering anything, they're just bothering the protagonist. they're creating, but that duality, now that it's like disintegrating, right? That, so aspects of wholeness that we generally felt like, oh, this felt like whole, is no longer looking like that. So like the inner protagonist in our own lives, where we save the day by doing something, is actually is disintegrating, because we're looking at ourselves in both antagonist and protagonist within.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, I've been feeling that lately. My inner protagonist is disintegrating. And I'm like, wow, what do I do?
Yeah, and which one should you go for? And that's it. That's still the dualistic thinking of like, I can only be, because, when you were talking earlier, I have to admit too, I have a mind, and my mind interconnected with all other minds that have been influenced and modeled after this educational system. I still too, I'm not like, just because I maybe channel and have these wise words doesn't mean like I am not influenced in a daily basis, just the same. So when I hear reflected to me, your mind, and the same, like I can hear the same type of like dual, like, oh, what if I do that, and then I can't do that, and the how to, and all of those like jittery things that happen. It's just like, wow, I can see that the way that it fragmented us. And so now when we come back together, we can't use that same dualistic patterning because it doesn't work. Because each day is, and every moment is going to be different. Just like we're sitting here, you're inspired through your heart to say, let's do a podcast. And this arose, and that generates another energetic field that goes out and sends something else out. And so the how-tos, how do we, you can't trace it, you can't track it in that old system, where in the old system we were taught, all of the business modeling, the scientific modeling, even the the old church ways of modeling is you do this, you're saved, right?
Yeah,
The business
check off the
modeling, the
boxes.
science is like, you're doing this, and this.
Yeah.
Believe in this, believe in that. And it's all the same models in the old system, in that same world of the authoritarian system. They still rest on the same belief structure. And so as the belief structure disintegrates, our electromagnetic field, if we allow our hearts to go through the pains and the suffering and the fears of like, oh my God, I'm losing everything, and everyone looks different, to what they're losing. Like, join the club, everyone. We're all losing something. But in the end, it's going to bring us to that sense of like, of what real wholeness looks like and is, but it's not going to work on the same level. And if I, and I think that's part of my own path, is that I'm, as everyone is listening, I'm going to be receiving that feedback loop from everybody who's listening, as well as yourself, as well as everybody here in the room, because we're all interconnected. I'm not knowing as an authority, or even someone who's been around for many eons or whatever, as a soul. It's like I'm still interconnected with everything. There's no like, oh, this is the way it's going to be. So I can't say, what is this new world how is it going to operate? But that's because the old mechanism is still in play within us that wants to know for that safety and security. And
oh boy.
So the safety and security is about your heart space and that belief in your soul's magnificence. And that we are interconnected as a truth, like there's an unwavering truth. And the earth, as she changes dimensional shapes right now, her frequency, as I've been sensing, is opening up to another form of what I like to say, because of the the work I do with the nervous system and the plant medicines, as well as the working with people with trauma, is the co-regulation is going to look different, like how we attune to each other and not see each other as threats in this new phase in this other world, because we need to it's not like I'm going to get something from you anymore, like can you do this for me, because oh God, I hope she does this, and we'll use marketing and the act of persuasion and try to get her to do this for me, because I need this, because I don't feel like I don't know how to do this, and I need to figure it out, so I need to do certain things. And so we start to like aim ourselves at certain situations so we can and then I'll receive that, and then I'll get my doctorate, and then and we're gonna you know what I mean, and then I'm gonna prove to the world, and that's gonna
Pamela,
happen.
stop telling everybody what how my mind.
Sorry, so just because you're right here. If somebody else I was talking to, I would use them as an example in my...
Pamela, now everybody's on to me. Everybody already has been on to me. It's fine. They all know who I am. Emma.
Well, that brings the next phase, is total transparency.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. Oh, God, I knew you were going to say that. I was praying so much tonight and, like, feeling so hard, like, the call to, like, start being, like, so honest publicly, loudly. And now I'm like, ugh. And I could like feel myself being like, well, Carolyn, nobody really wants to hear it. Nobody really cares about your little drama. They just want to know how you can help them. So just keep telling them how you can help them. You don't have to tell them about all your stuff and everything that went on with you and David this year, and shh.
Yeah. Everything has to be split into categories and compartmentalized in the mind for the how to work. Because if it's, that transparency within all of us creates this openness to see like who you truly are and your divine gifts, regardless of those compartments. Do you know what I mean? Because the compartments get disintegrated.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yeah. The compartments get disintegrated when you put things into compartments, and they stop. Oh boy, they stop relating to each other. Like, I don't know. I could so vividly feel that for myself as you were saying it, Pamela. Like, the way that me not sharing more of my full, transparent truth and existence, and like just sharing like the wise channeling bits, and not being like, by the way, everybody, yes, I can access this, and also, like that. I can't do it anymore. Like I'm realizing like it can't do that compartmentalizing. It's like not.
It's not feeding. Sorry, and
it's not feeding me. It's not nourishing.
But it's not feeding your soul.
Exactly.
And this is the difference between both worlds that is actually amplifying right now, is that hierarchical type of control, domination, authoritarianism, that's going to be like transparent to be more and more soulless. Mm-hmm. As a framework of existence. Mm-hmm. And so it's just not going to be possible to adhere to any of those mechanisms if you are really wanting to feed your soul. Mm-hmm. It like that, and that's the breakaway from enslavement.
So what I'm hearing, Pamela, is like there's a way that we can begin trusting the unknown at a greater level, and understanding, like, so as we were talking earlier, like I told you, my mind often says like, I can't trust the unknown. That's irresponsible. I have to figure it out. I have to have a plan. I have to make this, and that happen. And but as I'm learning from you, that voice is itself part of the enslavement, authoritarian programming that equates responsibility with sort of like basically with addiction to control.
Yeah, that's wonderfully said. And also isolation.
Oh God, yes.
And independence, and like, interesting enough, just because like we're in America right now, and like that, like, you know, Independence Day, you know, maybe we should, Interdependence Day. Hey, let's. Yeah. Because the independence is what is creating this sense of our. It's kind of like the backwards world, right? Like just how like everyone thought the liberal conservative things flipped. Mm-hmm. Well, things are flipping because when it doesn't hold truth, it's like the duality shifts to show the other polar opposite. Where like everyone was like, but what are you talking about? That was true, and now it's the other thing is true, and now it's flipped. Well, when it's not in a zone of neutrality, of in wholeness, and like creating the, you know, when we divide these things to put and compartmentalize, well, when that disintegrates, then everything starts to flip and show its other side, right? The duality.
Well, so I'm really curious, Pamela, like when, so as we, because I know that you're, you know, you're very perceptive, and I'm wondering, like, when you feel into like the coming years, what is your sense of how it plays out in like, you know, so there's going to be a certain concentration of people who are surrendering more and more into this wholeness and this trust and this, you know, deep interconnection, and detaching from the like addictive, compulsive control games that we've been indoctrinated in. Mm-hmm. And then there's going to be folks who don't have the awareness or, you know, whatever, the resources, the karma to make that transition right now. And so, like, so what I wonder about is like, because you just so vitally feel the truth of what we're talking about. And I'm like, well, does it happen that the folks who get on to the new wholeness frequency that we just like somehow start creating a different, I don't like, is there a society within a society? I mean, is that what the counterculture has always been trying to be? I guess it is. But but it seems like the mainstream culture has been like, you know, going so hard and so heavy on its on its stuff. I guess I'm just wondering, like, what will it look like? Because right now it feels to me like certainly there's lots of beautiful communities, conscious, you know, spiritual communities in many places, but it does feel to me like there's a lot of brilliant, illumined, awake people, and they're sort of like in like little pockets, like here and there, and they're not like all necessarily like living together in their own city dedicated to their own Shambhala. They're, you know, we're all like dotted throughout the lands of this like totalitarian hellscape that we was, you know, filled with big box suburban chain stores far as the eye can see. And anyways, so I wonder, like,
That transition.
yeah, what does the transition look like? Because I just the controlling, like, ugly, boring thing that we're trying to working on letting go of, how, well, anyways, yeah, I can barely, how,
That's it.
what's your sense?
That's,
Or it's, we just don't know.
that's it. I think it's, right now we're doing it. And this is also the, like, understanding of how to, like, doesn't work. Like the nonsensical, if everything had to be played out just like that old system, then we would feel safe and secure, but then we're still latching on to, like, right now it's like what we're in and what we're experiencing right now. You know, like I you know, honestly, my background is like, I knew of this 10 years ago, and I moved to the Amazon, and I didn't tell people why I was moving there specifically. I did want to study with the plant medicines, and I have, and it illumined a different path than I even thought I was going to be on, which is amazing. And I thought I was going to be like preparing community, live off the land for this time. And now I'm in the US. And I was like, wow, like the how-to, I designed it. I designed it 10 years ago, and yet I'm not living in my how-to because it didn't work out. And so now I'm acknowledging that the whole mechanism that I was taught into how to prepare for a certain event was based on the old mechanism. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I did that. I created the land, the community, like, not the community, but like the, you know, the structures, the off the grid, and, you know, should be sitting there like waiting for it.
I know you did. It was so beautiful, Pamela. I visited Pamela there. I want the world to know Pamela had such a gorgeous, sweet setup in the jungle. It was so nourishing and such a wonderful place to be, and you really did a great job setting it up, Pamela.
Thanks. And now it's like, okay, you know, because of this, you know, different climate of hierarchical, like, authoritarianship in the world, that flexibility within my, you know, flying around and creating these is no longer there at the moment. And yet something else is arising in me that without that map of the how-to that I had previously written 10 years ago, if I kept following it, then something in this moment that is not supposed to be, but is arising from the interconnectedness of everybody I meet and the connections I meet every day. Like, it's not a prefab structure. And that's the thing, is that when we don't have a prefab structure, we like lose it, in our society, because we're so accustomed to having this, okay, for safety and security. So a lot of my training goes back even 20 years ago, where I would listen to my dreams, and my dreams would tell me, from night to night, where I'm supposed to go live or where I'm going to go. And I was living it, in my car, and I'd go, and then I'd always have great, amazing friends and people and connections along the way, and how it was like testing me at my boundaries, whether it be finances and arriving somewhere and, having a bit of something to sell, and, wow, I made it, and I everything worked out. But, according to the comfort level zone, I did end up going back into the prefab structure, because my comfort zone after a while got tested. Like, how can I constantly do this without having a new template organized? And this has been like for many years now, and I think it's all of our collective frequency that needs to be elevated to a place where we trust and we believe wholeheartedly in co-creating something so magical that something else can arise that we've always wanted. And so without the failure of certain things, whether you say, me and my husband, I was talking about yesterday, I just had this feeling. I was like, this is what the apocalypse feels like. I just had this idea, and nobody told me. Like, if you would have said, what is the apocalypse going to look like? You know what I mean? Like, what is that feeling? What is that vibration? Until you have the experience.
You don't know, but this is it, folks. This is what it feels like.
And everybody individually has their own experiences within it, right?
You know what? Totally. When you said that earlier, what I immediately started hearing in my head was that phrase chanted to the protest song tune of "This is what democracy looks like." This is what the apocalypse looks like. This is what the apocalypse looks like. Whose apocalypse? Our apocalypse. That was like... This is what apocalypse looks like.
Oh, you own that. Yeah, you own that apocalypse. Yeah. That's it. And it is. It's that experience. And so until we're cleared from that, and I love listening and reading to many different channelers and healers who, I've received much information on the possibilities and how things are going to go, and questioned a lot, oh wow, when someone said the world's splitting, from a 3D, Dolores Canyon's books. I loved her, and I still love her, even though she's gone. She's in the spirit realm. But, many of her channelings offered, okay, the worlds are going to split. And so before the experience happens, you have this idea, we're getting pulled apart. I'm in a world, these movie, I don't know, that they've been talking to us for years, how to even conceive of something like splitting. We're and then how are we getting to that ball? I want to be in that ball. You know what I mean? And it's I have no clue. I don't think the earth knows. And I think this is a huge concept. What I'm just realizing is that the earth is experiencing this as well for the first time. It's experiencing another dimension. So, how, if the master, I work with the master plans, are in this experience, and we're come on, tell us how it's going to go. Tell us how to go. It's we're experiencing this. This is our experience. And so, when people have certain, and I just picked up something on that, it's just karmas, right? And I think that's that feeling of owing or debt or wrongdoings, right? Creates a polarization in one's field, I should be held back, from experiencing this interconnectedness with all of life. and the beauty, because, I've shame, I've guilt, grief, whatever, all of those emotions that, and just that really actually hug fear in pretty good. Fear and that, projection of fear into the world and, so on is really guarded by these underlying emotions that we just, whether we feel like, it's just so horrible, we should be ostracized, which keeps us perhaps into the denser, I don't want to say denser, but the other world. I don't want to poo-poo it, because you know what, bravo to everybody who wants to stay in that world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's great.
It's rough in there, so it's really...
But to some of us who can't handle that anymore, as our soul's growth and evolution.
Truly, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, props. Like, if you can stay in it, like, whoa, hey.
Yeah. I can't do it either. I'm like, oh my God. And that's why a lot of people, like, really, are we, the vibrational energy when we go outside and we connect with people, what is, like, because I work with spirit medicine. And so this other world, when things become transparent as they are and elevated, does sickness actually exist in, well, I'm asking you this, but it's like, it's rhetorical, because I'm going to answer it. Sickness exists in just the physical body, and we are, spiritual beings. We are more than just this physical body. So when people pass through vibrations, are we actually becoming ill from the vibrational frequency that's being emitted in certain people, in the way that they hold the frequency in their bodies and allow it to distort and be passed through, as we are all interconnected. So the more we grow into this interconnection with all of us as a species and evolve, we are also feeling we need to be around that sense of purity of the heart, so that we elevate our vibrational frequency to places where we want to live in joy and great, amazing health, and wonder. Because if we work in those lower vibrations, that it just doesn't become possible anymore, as that frequency heightens and others choose not to heighten their vibrational frequency to actually how their soul is really emanating in tune with all of creation. So it's imminent that we will be together, and however this grand design brings us together through this experience. Because if we knew, we can't we can't know the experience before it's going to happen. It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Well, I feel like, man, just everything that you have said, Pamela, has like been so illuminating for me tonight, and I hope we have another one of these conversations soon, because I think the world will enjoy. And I guess I feel like I could keep you going all night, but I want to be
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of our energy.
Well, that's great.
So thank you for tuning in, everybody listening. So this has been the Sleepover Podcast. And Pamela, do you want to tell people more about how they can find out about you and your work if they want to?
I would love that. Thank you. I'm actually interbeinglineage.com is my website, and I'm going to be putting out a course in interbeing yoga, which is the sacred geometric forms that are found in all of creation, and how to really expand our awareness of the potency of all the elements, and how we can open up to a new level of creation within our own being, using these elements to clear away old belief systems and models. That'll be coming out in January, and I'm really excited about it, and I really feel honored that you asked me to be here to talk at this time. I'm very grateful. And our other website is avatarcenter.com with an RE, and that's our medicine work that we have done, and we continue it well, perhaps in the near future in Peru. We'll see how the journey goes one day at a time.
Yes. Yes. All right, everybody. Well, I am so honored to have you in my life, Pamela, and to have these conversations with you. So, yes, everybody, that's the Sleepover Podcast. Thank you for listening. Please rate and subscribe on your various podcast platforms. That does so help. Okay, bye-bye.